Well, you live in Brooklyn, it's like you're going to be, you know, tested in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? Brooklyn is not a weak borough. It's a borough when you growing up, you deal with a lot of nonsense. You deal with different kids, everybody have, you know, saying something. You in school, you know, it's like the attitude in Brooklyn is not like, let's say like the suburbs. I mean, you deal with some of the same things, but it's like you got to be strong to be from Brooklyn. You got to grow up knowing, and you're street smart. It's like you're born with natural common sense living in Brooklyn. So it's like, you know, it's a struggle here and there. It's a struggle for a lot of us, depending on what family, what upbringing, you know, but we all know the same thing. The one code in Brooklyn, it's all about just having fun, block parties, things like that. But we all go through struggles.
And what are some of the struggles you had to overcome?
Well, living in Brooklyn has definitely made me a stronger individual, because you see a lot of different things depending on where you're from. Not everybody lives in the best neighborhoods. You know, a lot of us come from the hood and we see a lot of things. We may not necessarily be involved in what goes on in the hood, but at the same time, from what you know and you educate yourself, you tend to understand why certain things happen and whether or not you want to be part of that society.
My birthplace, where I came from, it made me, and it is my biggest influence.
I don't know, my experience is different. I'm like from a West Indian background, and so one thing I think about people from Brooklyn, like we can go to every borough and, you know, stand out. And so my memories is always being able to be in Flatbush and play manhunt from them double buildings and jump from buildings. And so when you tell other people about stuff like that, they think it's crazy, but that's how we grew up in Brooklyn. And as a matter of fact, in this park, for example, you know the term pumping on these swings that are crazy, half broken and stuff like that.
What's this park called?
This is Lincoln Terrace Park. So I guess my memories of Brooklyn is just watching it transform, being able to grow up in the 80s era, seeing a whole bunch of gangs and just still being able to adapt to that, but at the same time standing firm on who I am and not fall victim to negative influences. And I have to say that goes to my mother for, you know, being a strong woman and, you know, coming from the Caribbean and wanting me to want more for myself.
What part of the Caribbean are you from? Your
well,
family?
my dad's from Trinidad and my mother's from Guyana.
Nice.
Right.
I'm from Coney Island, you know what I mean? So we got the rise, the beach, you know, it's a lot of things happening out there, you know what I mean?
Up on a hill, as the day dissolves, with my pencil turning moments into life, one by one, all the stars appear.
So I was grateful to live by the rides, you know what I mean? So I won't have to always come all the way out here for like Easter and all that, you know? I would go right down the block, chill, get fresh, you know what I mean? See everything, have a nice time, go home, and you know what I mean? So that was always a blessing for me. Everywhere you go, people are, oh, Coney Island at rides, you know, is the spot, is the place to be, you know what I mean? Especially in the summertime. A lot of ladies out here, you know, do what you do, you know what I mean? So it's a nice place, and I was happy to live here.
Born in a place called Fort Greene in Brooklyn, and pretty much had a pretty good childhood, normal childhood as far as children back in that era there. Things are a lot different than how it is right now.
And what decade was this?
This was growing up for me, was in as a teenager, was in the late 60s. And like I said, in the late 60s, things are a lot different than how it was now. Back then, you know, we had our gangs just like you do have them here now. But you know, back then it was like more of a centralized. Every neighborhood had their own gang. It wasn't like a you know, you hear about like in California. In California, you have like the Crips and the Bloods and stuff. Back then, you had like I mean, probably 100 different gangs there. And I lived a good, a good life as a teenager there. My mother always strived as far as education. Yes, you have bad times and good times. Every family has that. And you just gotta know what to do with the bad times and make them good.
I'm 42 years old. I remember I was a child in the 70s and went to public school back then. One thing that stood out from then to this day, which has been nothing like it, except maybe Coney Island dance has been the closest thing. But the way that people used to jam in the parks. I grew up in the projects in East New York, Canarsie, that way. And there used to be some great jams. People brought these humongous speakers, and it'd just be wax. It ain't like now with all the digital and stuff, but the music used to play timeless classic music, still classic to this day. And that sticks out of my mind so much. Those used to be some, I was too young to really be out there late, but I just couldn't get enough of it. It was just so exciting.
Sound like a good time, some good old days.
It definitely was, yes sir.
I was born in Cape Verde Islands, raised between Rochester, New York and Boston. And I've been living in Brooklyn for 12 years now. And Brooklyn is so cultural. It's not like any other city that I've lived in. It's a melting pot. I moved to New York right before September 11, so I really got to see Brooklyn the before and after, because it's not just Manhattan that was affected, it's all the boroughs. So I got to see the wild Brooklyn Zoo.
Shame on you when you stepped up to the old dirty bastard. Brooklyn, sure. Shame on you when you stepped up to the old dirty bastard. Brooklyn, sure. Brooklyn, sure. Shame on you when you stepped up to the old dirty bastard. Brooklyn, sure. Shame on you when you stepped up to the old dirty bastard. Brooklyn, sure. Shame on you when you stepped up to the old dirty bastard. Brooklyn, sure. Why?
And then the aftermath of the streets being cleaned up, people from the city moving into Brooklyn, the gentrification. It's crazy when you see like certain groups of people walking down Woodruff and Parkside Avenue, and even in Canarsie, because that wasn't the case 12 years ago. I feel like Brooklyn is a diamond in the rough. With the stadium that's coming up, I think people will really start to recognize where true talent and originality is housed. Like, I feel like there's so much talent, art, and culture in Brooklyn. I want people to know that it doesn't matter where you're from, where you're at, as long as you have something good, you can win. You just have to be smart and be patient. And I feel like Brooklyn is a place where a lot of people grind, and you see like the start to finish. You don't see them, you know, trying to cram things and do things overnight. Like, they know they have to formulate a team and make things happen, and you see it transition. And I've seen it for the 12 years that I've lived in Brooklyn. I've lived in Canarsie, I've lived in Midwood, I've lived in Flatbush, I've lived in Fort Greene. So I really get to see how people roll in different parts of Brooklyn.